Welcome to the Silent Thinking Podcast, a space to slow down, breathe, and reconnect. Today I'm reading from When the Psychology Professor Met the Minister by Dave Roberts and Patty Furino. Just listen and let the stillness support you. Chapter 3: Unveiling Pure Truth and Wisdom. Throughout the entire Long Island experience, Jeannine would pop in and out through Patty, or at times take control of her body to communicate with me. Truly, she could have found a more subtle way to make her presence known to me, but there was nothing subtle about Jeannine. One thing is for sure, she knew how to make a grand entrance. It was important that her spirit manifest in a way similar to how she lived her life. Otherwise, I would not be convinced that my experiences on Long Island are in fact real and not just a figment of my imagination. Ron Villano's presentation, Embracing the Power of Change, was my primary purpose for traveling to Long Island, but that certainly took a backseat to the events that unfolded. Seeing myself through both Patty and Jeannine's eyes became my weekend's mission. Upon my return home, I immediately began creating a written journal of the encounter because I did not want to forget a single moment. In the weeks that followed, Patty checked in to see how I was doing after my spiritually transformative experience, knowing I had a great deal to process regarding it. She was going to be available to support my continued understanding of the world of spirituality, truly vested in my spiritual growth and expecting nothing in return. Patty's role was truly support me in my quest for continued awareness for however long her spirit guides deem necessary. She further explained that she walks with her awareness focused on masters who exist on the other side of our consciousness. During one of our first calls, she cautioned me not to have any expectations about how long our relationship would last. Her strong connection to spirit was a priority to her. She explained that she did not want to take her time away from them. Plus, Pat did not want me to become dependent on her for continued message from Jeannine. Preferring that I create my own connection, I understood from spending time with Patty and recognizing the serendipity of the past weekend. I was learning to embrace flexibility as a necessary component of walking with spiritual awareness. As it turned out, Patty began to check in with me once a week. Our conversations flowed with ease, almost like we were two old friends reconnecting. She shared that she is usually very guarded about her awareness and hesitant about removing the cloak to share her hidden knowledge. Patty expressed that she never wanted to be labeled a medium or a psychic, explaining that because of her interfaith seminary experience, she understands that there are many levels of definitions of spiritual awareness. Through her experiences, she found that there are many paths that can bring us closer to the creative source of love. Her ambition was to pay attention to all parts of the self and use all levels of her awareness with honor. In my younger years, I never considered going to see a medium or psychic because I didn't believe in the validity of their visions. However, approximately 6 months after Jeannine died and distraught over her physical absence, I was desperate to connect with her in any way possible, even if it meant abandoning my core psychological beliefs. I chose to enlist the services of a well-known medium in my area. When I initially called for an appointment, she asked for my first name only. At the beginning of our 1-hour session, she immediately saw 2 women, one young and one old, in a kitchen cooking. I immediately felt that the older woman was my mother, Sadie, and the younger one was my daughter, Jeannine. They shared a close relationship while on Earth. That vision was enough for me to begin considering the possibility that our loved one's energy lives on in some form. My mother Sadie was intuitive and open to messages from beyond. Try as she might, she could never convince me to consider a different way of viewing the world. I vehemently rejected all things spiritual. Looking back, it was as if I had something to fear from embracing a perspective that was at odds with my rational view of the world. My relationship with Patty evolved and was much different from that session with the medium. Pat was able to channel pure truth about my life prior to and after Jeannine's death, without prefacing it with probing questions. It was as if she was reading my personal book of life. My experience reminded me of the one shared by Dr. Brian Weiss, MD, in his groundbreaking book, Many Lives and Many Masters. Dr. Brian Weiss is a psychiatrist who was once firmly entrenched in a clinical approach to psychiatry until he meets Catherine. Catherine was 27 years old in 1980 when she sought out Dr. Weiss, who at that time was chief of psychiatry at a Miami University affiliated hospital. She comes to his office seeking assistance with phobias, panic attacks, and anxiety. After 18 months of therapy, he engages in regression hypnosis with her and discovers that she has the ability to regress to past life existences and to channel messages from the space between lives. During hypnosis, she channels the messages of highly evolved master spirits. Her ability to recall past life trauma was key in helping her address her emotional health challenges in her current lifetime. Catherine enlightened him to the benefits of regression hypnosis to help future individuals address the challenges within their present lives. As Catherine was a conduit for pure truth and wisdom for Dr. Weiss, Patty was a conduit of pure truth and wisdom for me. As Dr. Weiss was firmly entrenched in the practice of psychiatry before meeting Catherine, I was firmly committed to using evidence-based practices to help individuals address challenges with alcohol and other drugs used before meeting Patty. In subsequent years, Dr. Weiss was able to seamlessly integrate spiritual concepts with his scientific background to enhance his effectiveness with his clients. Dr. Weiss provided a blueprint, a roadmap, if you will, to combine the best of both the rational world and metaphysical world. It was a roadmap that now resonated deeply with me. In his work, Dr. Weiss identified that it is very common to travel through different lives with the same group of souls. He calls these groupings soulmates, soul companions, or soul families. Weiss notes that we seem to learn our spiritual lessons and accumulate or resolve our karma with our soul groups. Relationships may change from life to life, but the souls are the same. In this sense, we never lose our loved ones because we are always being reunited either on the other side or back here in physical bodies. Dr. Weiss's teachings helped me understand that Jeannine's death and entrance into eternal life was destined from her birth. I have come to believe we chose to enter this life as father and daughter. Our soul contracts had been written. She was to be part of my physical life for only 18 years, all that was required for her soul to evolve in this incarnation. She entered another level of existence and chose to stay connected to me, helping me become a better and wiser man. 7 years after Jeannine's death, many lives and many masters now offered me a new point of view, one that was in alignment with the perspective I was beginning to embrace. I would soon discover that Weiss's work was not only path to discovering pure truth and wisdom after the death of a child, or any tragedy for that matter. There are two people whose path to discover pure truth and wisdom after tragedy were markedly different from mine. Both nonetheless inspired me. In hindsight, the first person manifested in 2009, approximately 1 year before my experience on Long Island. Interestingly enough, the second person surfaced in July of 2011, approximately 9 months after Long Island. Both have been a prominent part of the discussions that Pat and I have had for the last 10 years. In September of 2009, I was teaching a death, dying, and bereavement class at Utica College, and one of my students suggested that I read a book titled Ghost Rider, Travels on the Healing Road by Neil Peart. At the time, Peart was the drummer for the Canadian rock band Rush. I was familiar with Rush's music and greatly admire Neil Peart's brilliant drumming skills and his thought-provoking lyrics. I was unaware that he was an author as well. My student believed that I would resonate with Peart's book and that it might be a useful addition to my course curriculum. As someone who has discovered that my students are in many ways my best teachers, I took her suggestion and purchased the book. Ghost Rider resonated with me deeply and still does today. Upon reading this book, I discovered that Neil Peart's 19-year-old daughter, Selena, died on August 10, 1997 due to a car accident. Less than a year later, on June 20, 1998, his common-law wife, Jackie, died of stomach cancer. Peart became a bereaved parent and a young widower in the span of 10 short months. On August 20, 1998, he embarked on a 55,000-mile, 14-month journey on his motorcycle across Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Peart wrote for this reason: to try to figure out what kind of person I was going to be and what kind of world I was going to live in. Ghost Rider chronicles his travels, his challenges with grief, and the emotional pain associated with his life-altering losses. Peart's personal tragedies resulted in a 4-year hiatus from Rush. When he returned, he wrote the lyrics to an album called Vapor Trails. In his book, he described Vapor Trails as an offhanded reference to the ghosts of memory. I immediately identified with Neil Peart's reason for embarking on his healing road. After Jeannine died, I needed to determine the type of world that I wanted to live in and the type of person that I wanted to be. As with Peart, the rules that kept my world orderly, safe, and predictable no longer applied to me after Jeannine's death. Neil Peart rebuilt his world and discovered pure truth and wisdom after tragedy by going within, communing with nature, and reconnecting with friends and family. In 2009, I was rebuilding my world primarily through companioning other bereaved parents and conducting grief workshops at National Compassionate Friends conferences. I began to write about my experiences as a bereaved parent for the Open to Hope Foundation. One of my early articles, published on October 21, 2009, was titled Ghosts of Memory, Integrating Our Loss Through Remembering. It was one of several blogs, articles, and stories that I have written over the years, directly inspired by the wisdom of Neil Peart. Every activity I engaged in during early years of grief was motivated by my desire to honor my daughter's memory by being of service to others. The ways that I embarked on rebuilding my world was different from Neil Peart, but for the most part, I thought that I was doing a pretty good job with it. However, on Long Island, I learned that I needed to go beyond the role of bereaved parent that I created for myself. Like Neil Peart, I could be empowered to expand my awareness, embrace pure truth and wisdom, and find my peace after tragedy. In July of 2011, I integrated the wisdom that I gained from Neil Peart in my opening keynote speech titled The Evolution of Grief at the National Gathering of the Bereaved Parents of the USA in Renton, Virginia. After my speech, I was approached by somebody who excitedly told me that I needed to connect with a guy by the name of Chris Munch. I reached out to him, and we made an instant connection. Chris's story was very similar to Neil Peart's. His story began to evolve on December 23, 2005, when Chris's 16-year-old son Blake died in a car accident. In a moment of profound clarity, Chris sold everything he owned, stocked it with provisions, and went on a cross-country road trip into exile. Chris describes his decision to seek clarity on the road in a blog he wrote in 2013 titled "Traveled 33,000 Miles To." When I decided to live in my car and travel the country, I was in a desperate attempt to bring order to chaos within. I made a decision that may have seemed insane to many to seek my own reality. I lived in that chaos for many, many miles, sorting the past. I wasn't looking for a magic potion. I simply needed a reason to live, not one that you provided for me, but one that came from within. My path was unconventional, but it led me here to my reality within. I traveled 33,000 miles to cross the street. It's not distance I traveled, it's the experiences along the way, it's living in the moment, it's seeing heaven on earth. His admittedly unconventional path involved building a birdhouse in 48 states honoring his son Blake. From his actions, the Birdhouse Project was born across the country. Chris shared how the birdhouse could be a metaphor for rebuilding lives after tragedy. His life has evolved, as has mine, and no longer speaks of the Birdhouse Project. He now discusses how a child's game of pick-up sticks can be a metaphor for rebuilding our lives after loss. His truth and wisdom continues to evolve by shedding tools that no longer serve him and embracing those that do. He continues to present in my classes, and I feel he's a natural-born teacher who has had an indelible impact on my students' lives. During the past 10 years, Chris has become a good friend, a brother from another mother. Chris and I are very different in many ways, but we both stand in witness, and I inspired by each other's grief journeys. He loves to renovate old homes. Chris is passionate about using his skills as a builder, repurposing homes, much like he has repurposed his life. Pat and I discussed extensively how pure truth and wisdom is available to everyone, but the journey can look different. There's no one path that's better than another. What is true, however, is that our varied path to discover pure truth and wisdom are not meant to be sprints, but marathons. The path we take can empower each of us to engage in the process of introspection and self-discovery after tragedy, if we choose so. By standing in witness of what another person's growth and assimilating what works for us, we can learn from everybody's individual journeys, just as Pat and I learned from Brian Weiss, Neil Peart, and Chris. Thank you for sharing this quiet moment with me. If this brought you peace, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, and share it with someone who might need a little stillness too. Until next time, keep listening inward.